Hey, hey, welcome to Pursuing Goals God's Way. It is a good week for sure. As purpose driven mamas, one of our goals is to help our kids see what it means to set a goal, put a plan together, and take action on it, even with the bumps that come along the way. Being the model for our kids in how to dream and set goals is a huge reason that can turn our doubts, our mom guilt, our lack of confidence into something God can use. This conversation with Payne, CEO of Horatio Printing, first aired on her podcast, Dream Printing, and I'm excited to bring it to you. Polly launched Print School in 2022 to empower other dreamers to make their own Bible studies, journals, and planners, and she is such an inspiration. Today, she's interviewing me about my big dreams, my publishing experience, and all things mamas and dreaming. Let's talk about raising big dreamers and why our kids need to see us win. Hey friend, welcome to Pursuing Goals God's Way. Have you thought about finally starting that business now that your kids are older? Do you ever stay awake wondering how to mesh your passions into purposeful work? Do you have big, ambitious goals but feel overwhelmed or even unqualified to pursue them? Hey, I'm Gabe. Not too long ago, I longed for the confidence to start an online business. I just wanted to make a difference outside my home bubble using my gifts. But I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough. I didn't know enough, and I didn't have enough time. Until I realized something huge. My kids need me to be their example, and they need to see me win. And yours do too. In this podcast, you will learn how to clarify your goals, plan with purpose, and ditch your distractions. If you're ready to make an impact and an income, all for the glory of God, then you're in the right place. As an avid runner, I believe life is one massive marathon. It's up to you to run your own race and to finish it well. So lace up those running shoes, pop in your earbuds, and let's do this thing. Today, I have an extremely special guest that I'm excited for you to meet. It is the lovely Gabe, and Gabe is here today. We're going to have a little chat. She has accomplished some incredible dreams, and you guys know I love to dream big, and I love to peel back the onion and hear how you did it, what you overcame, because in order for us to step out and do those things and go beyond our limiting beliefs and see progress on our dreams, whether they're big or small, we're going to come up against opposition. We're going to come up against hardships. We're going to do things that are uncomfortable. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation and hear about Gabe's dreams. So without further ado, welcome Gabe to the show.
Hi, Polly. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here to be able to chat.
Yeah, so I already introduced you a bit to the audience ahead of time, but I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little more about your life and the day in the life of Gabe right now.
Sure. Well, I am an online business and goals strategist who helps women turn their passion and purpose into impact and income, all for the glory of God. And part of that dream came from learning how to go after goals alongside being a mom, because I became a mom a lot earlier than I had planned. Like my life did not turn out the exact way that I thought it would go at all. But of course, it's sweet and I love it and I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm just love that I have the ability to be able to go after goals and help other women do the same, but also be present at home and to really build a strong family structure.
Sounds like you're balancing it all perfectly.
Oh gosh, every day is so different, right? So some days I get it right and most days I get it wrong, but it's okay. We're just a work in progress.
Amen. Amen. Absolutely. So let's dive into your dreams. And also tell us a little more about, like, peel back the onion a little bit on how you help people as this strategist.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of evolved over the years. Like sometimes I thought I knew what I was doing, right? And then it's like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Or God kept leading me in different directions. And I had to be okay with saying yes to those directions. But what I do is I really help people learn to dream again, like understand what does dreaming mean and how can I create a goal in the season I'm in? Because I think that's one thing that we miss is the fact that we need to be thinking about these things amidst our capacity and the season of motherhood or womanhood that we're in, because it's different, right? If you have really young kids, you're going to be in a different season than when you have kids who are a little bit more independent. Maybe they're driving, or like, I feel like I'm coming into a new season soon here because I will have a little freedom back, not a lot, but I'll have a little freedom back to be able to use that time in a different way. And so really knowing and understanding those things, and then to be able to create the time and the boundaries around going after those goals, whether that goal is something just a life goal that you have, or it might be an online business, which I do a lot of strategy in that as well. But what I've learned is that we can uh, go after our goals, or we can work our businesses around the time that we have if we're willing to work in that time without having that excuse of, well, I just don't know how I'm going to get it in and stuff. So that's what I do. I help break down the big goal into smaller, doable chunks and into different habits that you can do in order to get to that place that you want to get.
Cool. I love it. You're speaking my language. I love what you said about learning to dream again. That's so needed. I think I've come across that a lot in my space, even just with people opening up the planner and staring at the bucket list, and they're like, what do I write? I remember a woman walking up to me and just going, I don't know how to dream anymore. I'm taking care of 2 kids I adopted. I've got 2 older sons. Like, I don't know how to dream for me. I think it's so easy as moms to get lost and to forget how to dream, either because you're too tired, you don't feel like you have time for it, you're numbing out on everything else, right? Social media and just whatever else you can do to relax. And we're losing our ability to dream. And also we're trying to be like safety. Like, I don't want to dream because then I might have the pain of a lost dream or a failed dream, right? So I think that's really important, because our dreams are tied to our hope in the future. And like, with no dreams, it's like, where's the hope? You know what I mean? Like, where's the spark? And I really love what you're doing, teaching people how to dream again, because it's so critical.
Yeah, it is. And actually, a couple of my favorite episodes that you've done is where you sit with the planner and you walk us through the questions and how to dream and whatnot, because I think that's really important. When we've lost it, it's really hard to kind of figure out how to get back into it. And I really say journaling is a great way to do it, but that's where those planners can come in handy, because I know I lost my dream when I moved into motherhood, which was quite sooner than I thought it was going to be. But the reason I lost it is because I put it on a shelf, because I thought I had to, because I thought that's what we do as moms. We just sacrifice and whatnot. But what I learned in the timing, like all the different years, I learned that my kids actually needed me to dream, because that I'm their biggest teacher. They're watching me. And so I have to be able to go after something so they can see how to do it. And I also didn't want them to grow up and go, oh, adulthood's not that fun. We don't get to dream anymore, right? That's just not what we want for our kids. We want them to have a better life than we had. And so even though I lost my initial dream when I took them off the shelf, they just shifted. It was different dreams, but it took a long time to figure out how to get that dream and that spark back in me to actually go after a goal.
I love that. Inspiring your kids to dream by like walking it out for them. That's so beautiful. And I love what you said about sitting down with those questions. I so believe that questions are such a great like Kickstarter to your dreams, pondering, sitting and having thinking time with a question like, where do you want to travel? Or what would bring you joy this week? Those are great questions to sit with. So let's peel back some of your dreams, Gabe, that you have accomplished. And I would love to hear the journey. I know you've written a book or 2. So tell us about that journey of becoming a published author.
Yeah, that has been a dream that I had. That dream never changed. Well, it changed a little bit because I always thought I was going to write fiction. Well, I started with nonfiction, but that's been a dream since I was really, really little. But it took me, I can't remember. I might have been 35. It took me almost 30 years to hit that dream, right? Because there were a lot of barriers in the way. There's a lot of fear. Like you said, we have to jump out of our comfort zone. We have to not play it safe in order to go after some of these dreams. And so what sparked the excitement to write this book was the first dream I really had coming out of motherhood, or coming out of like dreaming again, was I started running just as a way of fitness. But then I thought, well, if I can run a marathon. So my first dream was to run a marathon. Then I ran it and I was like, well, what if I could qualify for the Boston Marathon? So like it kept changing and getting bigger. But as I was going after that dream, it almost was near impossible because my best marathon time, in order to qualify for the Boston Marathon, because it's based on gender and age and time based in that category, I needed to cut almost an hour off my time. So I'm like, yeah, that's impossible, right? But I thought, why not? Because I thought if I could hit that, then I can, one, teach my kids how to do hard things and that you can do hard things, but also it would spark me being able to go after something and maybe have a different dream, right? So that dream was very impactful for me in that season, but I did hit it. And what I learned from it was I actually took a lot of different success principles and mental training. And that's how I was able to hit that goal and accomplish something. And I realized I had a book. I realized it sparked an idea to be able to help others take a dream or an idea and bring it to the finish line. And so that was the journey to my first book, which is called Mind Over Marathon, Overcoming Mental Barriers in the Race of Life. So it's not for runners, but runners will love it because there's a lot of running analogy in there, because I feel like running is just, that's life, right? Life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so that's kind of the journey of how it started. Maybe we want to talk a little bit about the struggles I've had in writing that first book, because that first book took about 5 years, which probably didn't need to take that long.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, the first time you do something, and you, especially if you don't have someone like holding your hand that's gone that path before you with their machete and they're like, this is how you go. Like, of course, especially, and as a mom, I was so intrigued by what you said, how when you finally did the first thing, another dream was born. And I was just doing an interview with my friend Amanda, and she was talking about how I was talking about our wealth journey, or like when you have this big goal or this big mountain you want to climb, which is the same thing like for the marathon, right? This big mountain you want to climb. My big mountain would be just to do a marathon, because running to me is absolute torture. Like I would have to be lit on fire and chased by a bear to run a marathon. But let's say that was the mountain I'm trying to climb, or the one you were trying to climb. It was like you got halfway up the mountain and the top of the mountain changed. Now your dream was Boston Marathon. It was qualifying. Like, it's so neat how when you just finally start taking the action, the peak, it's not that it's this elusive thing that you never touch. It's like the dream morphs when you're in motion. But you have to get in motion, even if it's just the next right thing, the next little step. And that was just so neat. It was like the mountain moves, the mountain morphs, and it's supposed to. Our goal changes. Like you had this goal of like accomplishing it. Now you had this goal of shaving an hour off, which I'm sure was shaving 5-10 minutes off until you finally got to an hour. And the whole thing shifted once you started up the hill. And that's okay. Like dreams aren't supposed to be fully laid out with an exact plan when you get started. You can have something mapped out, of course, but it's going to morph. It's going to change. It's going to take you on a journey, especially when God is leading you through it. You're definitely going to go a path you didn't expect at first, right? But I just love
absolutely. Yeah. And that's so true, because I always think faith is in motion, right? We can't just sit and expect something to happen. We have to be in motion, and we also have to be in motion for God to move us, like to direct us and put us a different way, right? And I love what you said about the map. Like I think it's really important for us to have a game plan when it comes to our goals and to map out how we can accomplish it, have that strategy. But the biggest thing that we need is the flexibility, because it really isn't usually going to be plan A that gets us to that mountaintop. It's going to be plan C or D or Z. And we have to be flexible enough, or actually see how we can shift, or when we need to pivot, or what's not working, or listen and hear what God's saying. And sometimes it's pivoting completely to a different dream. And sometimes it's just shifting our mindset a little bit so that we can hit it. So I love how you were talking about that. I
have a question for you. Do you have a longing in your heart? A dream, if you will, that you've wanted to take action on, but you're scared to take the leap because you're afraid it won't happen. Maybe you're afraid you can't fit it into your life. Maybe it's hard to actually take the time for you to work on it. What if I told you that you could go after a goal that works in the season you're in with the capacity you have, ditching the hustle culture altogether? If you're interested in learning how to take your goal to the finish line and still have the family time that you crave, then you need to register for my free on-demand workshop called The 3 Pillars to Setting and Crushing Goals in a Stressless, No-Hustle Way. In this workshop, you will learn the clarity you need to make your dream real to you without worrying about how it will all come together. How to craft a simplified game plan that gets results in the season of life you're in. The secret sauce to taking action that works, even if you have limited time to make things happen. Plus, the number one mistake people make when goal setting that causes them to quit too soon. If you are more than ready to finally take that desire inside your heart from conception to the finish line, this is for you. You can register for the free workshop at redhotmindset.com/goals. You'll get access to a free workbook to take good notes during our time together as well. Again, that's redhotmindset.com/goals. I can't wait to host you inside.
That's awesome. So speaking of printing stuff, what was your publishing route? Did you do traditional? Did you self-publish? How did that journey go for you? I'm obviously super curious as a print gal.
Yeah, that was a journey in itself because I didn't want to make the wrong decision, right? I think that's the problem is a lot of times we don't start because we have all these decision fatigue and we don't know what to do and we want the right thing. But what we realize is the right thing could be the right thing at that time and it could change, right? And so I was kind of like, do I go for a publisher? Do I self-publish? And I, was looking and researching and doing all the things and realized that what I wanted was to be able to own my book and be able to do many different things with it, whatever I felt like I was supposed to. And so I decided to go the self-publishing route, which was a journey in itself because I had to learn all things self-publishing because I had nobody there to actually do the things for me. But I did learn with the publishing route that they don't do a whole lot of marketing for you. You're still kind of very active in that part. And that's one of the other reasons that I chose the self-publishing route.
Yeah. They still expect you to pretty much handle the marketing, like they support it, but they're very much looking for you to bring the readers and bring the sales and the pre-order and all of that. Who did you use for self-publishing?
I did it all myself for the most part.
But like Amazon KDP or?
Oh, right. Yep. I used Amazon KDP I went between that and I think it was Ingram Sparks because I was like, okay, do I want to use a different publisher? And honestly, what I found was Amazon was just easiest for me. I could get it out there. It could be in all the different places. I didn't need a hardcover at that time. I just wanted the paperback. So it fit the needs that I had. And it's a search engine, right? So people can find the book there as well. So that's where I chose. And I did also, there were a couple things that I did hire out. I hired out an editor who did both the developmental editing and the grammatical editing, because I thought that was a really important thing to have. And I did have somebody design my book for me. The first book, I had someone format, and then I realized, that was a waste of my money and time. I didn't really like how that went down. So my second book, I ended up doing the formatting myself, and it was just fine. But I was scared to do it because I didn't know how.
Well, now you know how.
Exactly. Once you do one thing, you know.
So tell me what dream is on the forefront of your mind moving forward in 2023 and beyond?
So one of my biggest dreams that I have now, I published 2 books now. The one is The Mind Over Marathon, about accomplishing a goal, bringing it to the finish. The second is Victory Run, which is about overcoming trial as you're going through goals. And that came from breaking my ankle after qualifying for the Boston Marathon the second time. So that's a story in itself. But I have a dream for a third book, which will be the trilogy of it. And I don't know exactly what we'll call it, but I think it's going to be something like from the finish line back to the start. So what do you do in between goals? And how do you refuel and rest and energize yourself for when you have that next one that you're ready to prepare for?
And how to dream again.
How to dream again. Exactly. Because that's one thing that, after I hit that Boston qualifying goal, I had nothing else after it. And so I almost went into this like mini depression, so to speak, after I hit it, because I had hit that euphoria, right? The summit, so to speak, but there was nothing afterward. And I feel like that's something that happens even, Olympians are a good model of that. They go work their whole life for this one thing. And then once they've had that culmination and they don't have anything afterward, then they break down. And so that can happen when we're not dreaming again and coming up with that next thing. But we also need to be able to rest in between and not just go, go, go all the time, right? And have that hustle mentality. But that was something that I made a realization of and wanted to kind of pursue looking more into as well.
I love that. Yeah. Even like, let's say the other way, you don't hit the gold medal, but it's over. Like,
right.
It's like you could still, whether you were the gold or you didn't get any of the medals, you can still kind of go into that slump post whatever it is the dream is, right? And so how do you dream again after you already hit this pinnacle of your career, or you didn't do it, like it didn't work out? How do you get back to a start line and find a start line and have a goal? I think the big thing I've seen and experienced when it comes to my career or big dreams I've had, whether they succeeded or they failed, if I go into that slump, it's usually because, well, obviously you have like dopamine, right? Like you have this dopamine peak or whatever, serotonin release, and like you kind of have like a withdrawal from that, like chemically, like that's, you can't help it. But I've found that sometimes I will put too much stake in the goal because I have tied my identity worth to it. I heard a quote the other day that high achievers, we can start to believe that the excellent part of us is our work. And that is what's excellent about us. And when we believe that, whatever that is, whether that's a CrossFit goal or a professional goal or whatever, we can overwork and it becomes an idol. And we put our worth in that. So whether it wins or loses, it's like, well, that's all my value. This is it. When like our value's in God, our value is in the Lord. And I find so much peace when I just continuously hand over and surrender those dreams to Him, like win or lose, it's yours. I'm going to do my best. I'm here. But like, I'm not going to live and die by this dream, That's what's been helpful for me in the journey, because I've definitely had some like failed launches, so to speak. And then it's like, well, I'm the worst. I'm just worthless. Like I should just quit, and it's like, well, where's my hope? Where's my joy? Why is it placed in this silly launch and not in Jesus or, in like living life here? And anyways, so that's kind of been my big revelation, is like through launches, through high pressure stuff, through goals, making sure that my identity isn't getting too wrapped up in it. 'Cause I know that's my tendency and like that's my weak spot.
Oh, I love that you bring that up because it's such an important piece, the partnering with God. And I've found for me too, a lot of times when some things are not going the way I want, or I'm frustrated or whatnot, I can pinpoint it to, have I been spending time with the Lord, and have I given this dream to Him? Have I allowed Him to shape it and mold me, right? And so one of the things I like talking about is the refiner's fire. Like really, we are just God's workmanship, right? And so we're called to work, but we're called to work for the glory of God. And so He puts us through the fire. Like we need to get into the fire for Him to be able to mold and shape us and refine us into these women of strength and these women who have the skills or who now have the tools in order to do what he wants us to do. And it looks very different for each person individually. But the one thing I've learned is that sometimes when I get into that fire, I'm like, ooh, this is too hot. I don't want to be here. And then I stray and I take the wheel. And that's when things somewhat fall apart for me, or I go into those seasons of feeling like pity for myself or just that worthlessness. Like, this isn't working. I should quit that stuff. And so I've learned that when I give it to God, which means not, we're still in motion, but when I let him lead, when I say, nope, this is you, I have too much on my list today, Lord, you just need to take it. I don't know how I'm going to get it done, but if you take it, I know it'll be fine. And then we'll see that partnership in motion. And it's such a beautiful symphony when we do take our hands off the wheel and we just essentially allow things to happen rather than try to make it happen. Yes, we're in motion. Yes, we're doing the work, but knowing that we're doing the work for him more than for our self-gratitude, right? So we see the blessings as we hit these goals and whatnot, but we also need, like you said, we need to remember that it's for God's glory. We're doing it to make an impact in some way. Otherwise, it can become an idol and it can take the place of our relationship with God, which we never want.
And it causes so much pain and so much pressure. You're doing it all alone. It's all on me. If I'm not doing it, nothing's getting done. I mean, there's so many downsides to this. So for me, that just looks like continual surrender. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Here's my day. Surrender. Here's my dream. Surrender. I'm still showing up. I'm still working. I'm still, dusting off my rusty dusty and like getting to work. But it's that rhythm of surrender for me. So for my listeners that have a dream to print something, what would you say to someone who is struggling with a limiting belief around launching a paper product in the world?
That's such a great question. And I would assume that pretty much all of us go through it when we are ready to print, because we think, who am I? And actually, when I was writing this book, one, it's about accomplishing goals, right? And using success principles and mindset. And so I'm a mindset coach and I'm having these limiting beliefs. Like, I don't know who's going to listen to this. I don't know if this message is going to make an impact. All these questions that we have. One thing I would say is just know that you're not alone in the questioning, because we all go through it, whether we're just starting out or we're $1 million business owners who are working on building a print business of some sort, like building a planner or a book. They still go through it because it's vulnerable. You're vulnerable putting yourself out there, right? And hoping that it impacts somebody. So first thing is that. Second thing is, I would say finding community. Find the support system would be super important, whether that's just a friend that you can, go tell them that your limiting beliefs and let them encourage you, or it's finding a place where others are doing the same thing. They have this similar goal, so that when those questions come, you can go, man, I'm just having an off day today. This is where I'm stuck. Has anyone else felt that? What has helped you? Right. And I think that's the main thing that has helped me, is to find that support system, because people in your main network might not understand what you're doing. They might not be able to really give you that solid advice or help calm those worries that you have. But somebody else who's working toward the same thing will have that for you. So whether it's a coach or mentor or just a community support or accountability partner, that is the one thing that I've found helps.
That's so good. It reminds me of this analogy of like taking this hike solo through a trail you've never gone through, and it's like, okay, I'm going on this really extreme hike and I've never done it before. I downloaded a map off the internet, but I don't know how long it's going to take me, and I'm not quite sure the path. If you told that to your parents and your friends, they might go, don't go down that hike. You don't know where you're going, like that's dangerous. And they could try to blow your candle out, you know what I mean, of that dream. But imagine there's somebody, a trail guide, that says, hey, I've done this 20 times. This is how long it's going to take. This is what the trail requires. This is the type of equipment you're going to need. This is how much you need to invest in your backpack and the materials. And you're going to go with me, and I'm going to go with you every step of the way. And parts are going to be easy. Parts are going to be hard. Parts are going to be really fun. And we'll get to the end of it because we're going together. Well, I mean, that just makes more sense, right? Like that's what it's like when you find the community of people that have done it as well. That's why I love Print School. That's what I've created there, which Print School comes with a Facebook group that's really, I mean, it's like the coolest group of candle flame fanners. They're out there encouraging each other. We're voting on cover art and we're giving feedback to one another. And then we do twice a month group coaching calls, which is super fun because I take questions live from all the students. So I totally agree. When I got started, the reason I was able to successfully launch Horatio is because there was a girl in my office who did a Kickstarter to start her magazine. And I thought, wow, that sounds great. And like just watching someone else do it made it so much more plausible for me. Even though ours were very different, I saw the possibility and I was able to ask her questions. And so I totally agree with that.
That's so good. Something else I was thinking as well as you were sharing that, it's such a good analogy, is also remembering that you're not needing to speak to everybody. You're speaking to a specific type of person. That was one of the issues I had in the beginning. I'm like, well, this book is for everybody. Everybody can get something out of it. So I tried to speak to the masses. I tried to speak to everyone, but then it kind of fell flat at first because I didn't realize that I needed to have that essentially target customer, if you will, because when you are writing specifically to someone, it resonates so much better. And so I think when you take the time to do that, which can come in a lot of different ways, it'll build the confidence for you knowing that you have the message that matters to those people. Now, everyone else could read it, or, if it's a journal, they could get the journal and benefit from it, right? But you want to target that specific person who it's meant for.
That's so good. And it helps you really connect with them and see it as a person, and you can get out of your own way. Because we're writing this and we're like, oh, this sounds terrible. I'm the worst. Versus like, if you can picture the person holding the book that you're reading and just talk to them, it takes that focus off yourself and really onto them so you can progress and keep going. I see that a lot in Print School too. It's like, we have to think about who this person is so we can stop stressing so much about the fear of judgment. Like, what's everyone going to think when I launch this thing? It's like, you have to table that and focus on her, the person that's holding your product.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time and I hope you did too. Before we go though, make sure you follow the podcast on your favorite listening platform if you haven't already. If you resonate with this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or share it with a friend, as this helps grow the podcast. Also, if you're not a part of Simplicity and Motherhood, consider joining us. It's a free online community built to provide support and encouragement so you can create balance and live intentionally as you go after your biggest goals, God's way. Head on over to redhotmindset.com for more resources and to find the link to join the community. In all things I pray, you just run your race. I believe in you.